I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it. The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. The show goes on!
It's Wednesday night and fantasy football is on the agenda. Grab a seat and let's get down to business. It's time for the Fantasy Boardroom. Here's your host, Tycoon.
And welcome to the Fantasy Boardroom. I am your host and Fantasy CEO, Tycoon, with you as always. I'm excited. No missed weeks, no being late. We're just here. We're ready to talk some fantasy. We're going to go over just the horror show that was week 8. And since, unfortunately, it's been quite a wild week in the NFL with big fantasy implications and even bigger implications in reality. It's and unfortunately none of it's really good news. So we hate to have to go there, but it's the way it's going to go. And we're just going to start off with a quick comment, and that is from our boy Dustin. He is first. Just, got to be first. All for it, though. So again, we're going to take a look back at the, again, horrorscape that was Halloween, week 8 in the NFL, and then also, excuse me, and we're also going to go ahead and take a look ahead at week 9 a little bit. But just terror completely ruled the day. It was kind of flashbacks of early season play. Randos and backups just absolutely dominating the leaderboards, and just more key and devastating injuries and a lot of off-the-field shockers. So again, that's kind of sense, but it was not a fun day for many of us in the fantasy community this most recent Sunday. With that, we're just going to dive right into the agenda. No reason to play around tonight. Performance reviews, where we always start. We're going to start with a person that I am absolutely so happy to be able to talk about here in a very positive light, and that is the one, the only Arthur Juan. You may know him as A.J. Brown. He's a personal favorite, guy I absolutely love. He is probably my favorite non-49er in the NFL. Just an absolutely incredible receiver, just a specimen. The guy is just a dog, and it's a pleasure to watch him play wide receiver. But yeah, he had a bit of a rough start dealing with injuries. It was the Derrick Henry show, so it's really good to see him back to form. Ryan Tannehill getting him the ball, and I hope everybody's calmed down just a little bit. He was 10 of 11 for 100, or 10 of 11 in terms of 10 receptions on 11 targets for 155 yards, a touchdown, and he was wide receiver 1 overall in week 8. Absolutely unstoppable. That's the A.J. Brown we know. That's the A.J. Brown we love. That's the A.J. Brown I think we're going to continue to see. He has 7, 8, and 10 receptions in his last 3 games. He's back, and he's not going to stop. And honestly, with Henry out, they're probably going to have to lean on the pass just a little bit more. They're going to have to rely on Tannehill's arm just a little bit more. Adrian Peterson is not coming in and taking over that workload. McNichols certainly isn't taking over that kind of workload. Even between them, it's not going to be that level of workload, I don't think. So expect Tannehill to have to really earn that money, and A.J. Brown's going to be a main beneficiary of that. Now, there is the unfortunate possible downside that with Henry out and Julio, who knows, when he is and isn't going to be in the lineup, that AJB is going to end up getting doubled quite a bit, but I'm always going to bet on Brown. Always. Every single time. Go with AJ. Now for our team review, this is not one I expected to really do at any point this season, to be quite frank. And that is the New York Jets. Jets, Jets. Let's go, baby. Mike White, QB1. Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, RB1s. Jamison Crowder, wide receiver 2. Elijah Moore, wide receiver 3. What a freaking day for these guys. I mean, really, in an unreal sequence of events, the Mike White led New York Jets offense just boomed in the biggest way possible in week 8. Great performances from all of the above. You had Mike White at QB3 overall. Michael Carter was, RB1 overall. Ty Johnson was RB9. There just might be something cooking here for now. Well, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how committed they are to Wilson. Obviously, they're going to be. He was the number 2 overall pick. Let's be serious. But did they potentially just give him that extra week, maybe 2, to make sure he's fully right instead of trying to hurry him back in any way? Especially if White can continue to play like this. We shall see. I would definitely continue to play Carter with confidence now, though. Ride Michael Carter. And for our positional review, related to the horror show, it was Funhouse Mirror Week with that position. Just, you take a look at the leaderboard, and it kind of looks normal at first. You walk in, nice regular mirror. Josh Allen, QB1, okay. Then you start taking your next steps in. You're getting a little deeper into the Funhouse, and Jimmy G is 2. Mike White is QB3. Geno's QB7. Davis Mills, QB9. Cooper Rush, QB12. So what the hell is going on? I mean, you're lost, you're confused, you have no idea what kind of distorted pictures you're seeing here. But the unheralded QBs, they're just put on their Peyton Manning costumes this Sunday and just balled, absolutely balled. And most of the big boys, beyond Allen, Brady, and Stafford, they were kind of mentally out. They were already trick-or-treating with their kids before the games ended on Sunday. They were ready to get out of there, go pound some candy with the kids, go scare some people, trick-or-treats. Now, stock rising. Haven't done this one in a couple of weeks. We did have a missing week. We did have an amended format week, so it's kind of fun to get back to this. And one that might seem a little counterintuitive, but I feel is important, and that's Cordero Patterson. His stock has only continued to risen. I mean, he's been a regular on this list, but he's only continued to be consistently involved and consistently produce. We've been worrying about when he's going to turn back into a pumpkin, and I don't think that's going to happen this year. I really don't. So, Cordero, just to the moon. Hope you didn't sell high. And Matthew Stafford is one. I mean, the immobile quarterbacks, so to speak, are guys that you tend to worry about a little bit holding up on a week-over-week basis, but it's pretty clear that, this isn't going to stop a Stafford either. He's playing at an MVP level, I hate to say, barf, but he is continuing to do nothing yet but throw for touchdowns, mainly to Cooper Kupp, and he's an absolute top-flight fantasy quarterback. That's what we're seeing now, and there's no reason to expect that to change over the second half of the year. If anything, he'll likely improve as long as he can stay healthy. Elijah Mitchell staying in division and at least getting back to the good guys. It's clear here at this point that Mitchell is Shanahan's guy for now. And when I say for now, I mean likely for the year. You never 100% know because, Kyle Shanahan's just an absolute wild card. Jeff Wilson is going to come back, but I think he is more likely to cut into Hasty's role. He's going to steal some of that kind of work, a lot of the receiving work. And Sermon's not even sniffing carries. He is, who has been charting this? I want to say it's Jason Aponte. So Jay Aponte, if you run across this, great. And if it was somebody else, I apologize. But 11 snaps this last Sunday, and the past 2 Sundays for Trey Sermon, and they have all been special team snaps. So this is Eli Mitchell's job, and I don't think he's going to relinquish it. He is performing very well, and as long as he continues to do that, and there's no reason to think he won't, it's going to be his job. So it's definitely a guy I want to have on my teams, particularly with the quite attractive fantasy playoff schedule that the 49ers have. Eli is definitely a guy I want to have on my team there. Go get yourself some Mitchell. And unfortunately, when some things rise, some things must fall. And in this case, some favorites of mine as well. These are also painful, but Allen Robinson, probably a week or two too late, but again, amended format last week, missed a show. He's droppable in all formats, all redraft formats anyways. There's not really much reason to hold out hope, to be quite honest. I mean, yeah, there's the name and obviously the talent, but it's not happening this season. And there's little reason to think it will. Just cut bait. I saw it finally happen in a league I'm in with my wife, and I gotta say, I didn't expect it in that league. I really thought that manager was gonna hang on, but at some point, I guess you just gotta let it go. Antonio Gibson, another guy that I have his stock falling. Now, there's a lot of Twitter hype around Mr. Gibson, and I think that led to a lot of unrealistic expectations for a lot of people. And shin injury hasn't helped at all. That's obviously a huge factor here. So the electric, though still pretty inexperienced Gibson, he's seen his role limited by not only the injury, but also J.D. McKissick, and even Jarrett Patterson was given more carries than Gibson here in Week 8. So that is kind of a big concern, whether or not it is due to the shin injury. Now, obviously, again, that's a major factor here, but still, Jarrett Patterson, 3 more carries, 11 to 8. Ugh, just, you hate to see it. Those that were heavily invested in Gibson this season, I am so sorry. Dustin, A-Rob, crying emoji. That's been me for weeks. Finally, I guess somebody has dispelled that, or proven that A-Rob is not, in fact, QB proof. And that shatters my whole reality. And lastly, for the fallers, is one Sam Darnold. He's seeing ghosts again. He's quickly cooled after a hot start, and he's now suffered concussion. Just not a guy you can really rely on as your QB1 right now. It's yeah, there are going to be better options. Doesn't really matter. There are better options out there. In one QB, yeah, drop him for somebody else. And Superflex, you probably don't have much of a choice if he's healthy. You're still going to need to play him, but definitely quickly descending. Again, very, very disappointing. Guy that I was pretty high on and felt pretty good on after 3 weeks. And, well, oof, had the rug pulled out from under me there. Yeah, Dustin. Gibson, too, though. I hate to see it. Yeah, you really do. Clearly a talented guy. Would really like to see what he could do. Now, this is always fun. Employee of the Week. And this week, probably not a big surprise to many of you, but the Employee of the Week is Michael Carter. Let's give a hand to Michael. Hey, Michael, good job, good job. Look at you. RB1, playing for the Jets. Yeah, stand up. Yeah, round of applause, everybody. Round of applause. What a week. No, really, though. I mean, he did it all here against Cincinnati on Sunday. 9 receptions for 95 yards, 15 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown. And, well, 32.2 fantasy points. That's what we really care about here in the boardroom. And 32.2 fantasy points was, as just mentioned, good for RB1 overall. He's taking, or has taken, over as the RB1 for the Jets, and it's really not too late to jump on the bandwagon here. I wish I was more aggressive in getting him in the offseason. I really do. I think I let the Jets landing spot sour me a bit much. I really enjoyed Javonte Williams. And, you know, when you have the two teammates together, sometimes it's hard not to compare them. I mean, it is possible for two great players to be on the same team, obviously, even at the same position. I know, shocker. But even I sometimes fall prey to just getting into my own head. And I think that's what happened here with Carter. And, but thankfully, I do still have some spots where I have some exposure, and it's nice. So now that we've had some guys rise, some guys fall, we named our stud our Employee of the Week again. Way to go, Michael. Let's focus on recruiting. This week, pretty much just waivers we're looking at here, and that is, unfortunately, once again, thin. Now, you may or may not have heard, Derrick Henry has a broken bone in his foot, 5th metatarsal. He's going to be out a minimum of 6 weeks, up to 10, maybe longer. Who knows? But he's done for your fantasy regular season, likely done for your whole fantasy season. So, there's likely replacements, of course. And that is 1, Jeremy Nichols, and 2, Adrian Peterson. Now, McNichols, he's probably not going to get as much rushing work as Peterson's going to get, I don't think. I think it's really going to be McNichols as the receiving back, Peterson as the power back. But Peterson, I mean, I like them both for different reasons. I mean, neither's going to replace anything that sniffs anything Henry did, but they both have their advantages. I mean, Peterson's going to have likely more touchdown opportunity. He'll probably be more of a goal line back than you'll see McNichols be. But McNichols is likely to be far and away used more as the receiving back. And that's quite valuable. I mean, he was getting a lot of that work even with Henry in the fold, so maybe we'll see a bit more of that. And with the Titans likely to be leaning on Tannehill's arm just a little bit more, I mean, you could really see some valuable PPR points appear from McNichols. So in a PPR league, I would probably lead McNichols. Otherwise, AP just for likely touchdown upside. I mean, he's probably only going to get you like 50-ish yards a week on 15 carries, something like that. But if he finds the end zone, it'll continue to be useful for you. So keep your expectations managed. Probably not an adequate replacement for Henry, obviously, but somebody who can at least get you some baseline points. Not the highest upside play, but that's the best that's really out there this week. There's also Ty Johnson. Now, I don't think he's going to crack the top 10 again in a given week, but he's clearly got a role there within that offense. I mean, he had 9 total touches, 5 of them being receptions. Again, very valuable here in PPR. There's a spot for Ty Johnson. And if this offense is starting to figure anything out with Mike White, even with Wilson when he returns, whatever, the guy worth stashing at this point, given just the wretched state of the running back position. And lastly, I keep trying to take him off this list because I assume people are paying attention. People are listening to the boardroom, watching the boardroom. But Rashad Bateman, now, this is not surprising. He's still only, this is still surprising actually, but it's not surprising that he's most rostered in sleeper redraft leagues. He's rostered in 49% of redraft leagues there. He's rostered in 31% of Yahoo leagues, and shockingly, only 18% of ESPN leagues. I cannot stress this enough. Go get Rashad Bateman right now. You should have been holding him on your IR for weeks. Now, I imagine it's probably artificially a little bit lower. Some dropping him to make room during bye week here in week 8. Get somebody else on the roster, but mistake. So he's very likely available in your league, and he's absolutely more worthy of a roster spot than somebody else that's holding a bench spot. So go get Rashad Bateman and start him this week. Yeah, do that. That's what I say. Now, we can't just recruit from who's available. We need to keep a wandering eye just a little bit. And we do have a target for you. Now, last time we had this segment, all the way back after week 5, we told you to go buy Stephon Diggs and A.J. Brown. We pushed that quite a bit. And we really hope you did. You're probably not going to be able to now. So, good luck. But now, what I'm going to tell you is go buy Javonte Williams. I've been a Melgo proponent, Melvin Gordon, for much of the year, and I've been right so far. I mean, he is a good player. The Broncos are coached by an old school coach in his 60s who was not going to give a lead role to a rookie running back in short order like that. It was never going to happen, and also because Melvin Gordon is still a decent player. Now, Javonte is clearly better. We do know that. Now, again, back to the previous point, Melgo is RB15, Javonte's RB25, so it's not like Javonte's been useless, but clearly Melvin Gordon has had the more valuable role. But again, Javonte is clearly the better player. If you have eyes and any football sense whatsoever, it just pops on tape. Now, it's still not likely to change here in the immediate future. I still think we have a few more weeks of this timeshare, much to the chagrin of Bronco fans and Javonte Williams fantasy managers, but fear not. I kind of foresee a little bit of a Cam Akers situation of last year where you're going to have a really valuable playoff run here, at least fantasy playoff run from Mr. Williams as soon as the Broncos are a little bit out of contention. A little bit out of contention. Man, I am not speaking correctly today. No, as soon as the Broncos are out of contention, as soon as they accept this is a lost year, I think Williams is going to get a lot more run over Melvin, And, well, based on his talent, based on just the incredibly elusive nature, the guy is impossible to get to and then just as hard to tackle once you do. Uh, so, yeah, this guy is going to absolutely wreck fields when he's given some solid volume. So look for that very late in the year, but try to get him now, especially after a down week. This will probably be as affordable as he'll be moving forward as soon as other people start kind of coming along with this logic as the Broncos continue to lose football games. We have a new guest here in the chat. Dem Boys, what up, Tycoon? What up, Dem Boys? Welcome to the boardroom as always. A loyal shareholder. We love Dem Boys here. I would, use this time to talk trash on the Cowboys, but HR, got to keep it professional, right? Sort of. So again, acquire Javonte Williams now after a quiet week. Look for that kind of Cam Akers pop that we saw last year. Look for that late season, similar to that late season waiver wire ad that just carries you to a championship. There's legendary stories of those guys over the years, and expect Williams to join that group in 2021. Now, forecasting a little bit, we're going to look slightly ahead to week 9. What was our game of the week and no longer is of course the Chiefs Packers. What I had written on the show sheet was Mahomes, Rodgers, Hill, Adams, Kelsey, Jones, Williams, fantasy bonanza in store. Well, so much for that. We're going to cover why here in a little bit, but let's just say one quarterback is not going to be playing, and it's not going to be quite the bonanza I was going to hype it up to be. But do be on the lookout this week for the teams that are on bye. We do have 4 of them this week. Thankfully, it's not the hit list that was week 7, but still 4 teams: the Detroit Lions, the Seahawks, the Bucks, and the football team. So make sure you're getting Swift, Hawkinson, DK, Lockett, Brady, Godwin, Evans, Fournette, Terry McLaurin, J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, Taylor Heineke. Get all these guys out of your lineups. Make sure you're making proper switches and set yourself up for success here in week 9. Now, since we don't really have a game of the week, I did just want to kind of peek at some other games that were on the schedule that will have a little bit of interesting fantasy relevant. First and foremost, Thursday night game, Colts and Jets. Why? Well, what are they going to do as an encore after that just absolutely dominating performance from Tom Brady 2.0 Mike White? And of course, with the Colts in tow, Jonathan Taylor is somebody we always need to be paying attention to. So as a person who has him on many teams and who is a huge fan, I cannot stay away from that game. And how's Pittman going to do? I'm curious with him game by game. We've also got the Falcons and Saints rolling up. Oh, we got a new visitor to the boardroom. Fantastic. Brooks, what up? Welcome, sir. Good to see you. We're just we kind of just wrapped up our look at the horror show again that was week 8 in the NFL. And now we're peeking ahead into week 9. I'm not going to do full-on game-by-game breakdowns. That's a whole episode type of activity. Just don't have that kind of time. But trying to point out what might be interesting ones. Falcons Saints is always interesting just because those are always interesting games. Quite a rivalry. Pretty entertaining rivalry over the years if you're paying attention to the NFL here. And I expect this to be no different. Is Taysom Hill going to be back from his concussion, or is Trevor Siemian going to get another opportunity? How are the Falcons going to look after looking pretty poor last week? We saw, was it Matt Ryan's hand get stepped on? Yeesh, didn't look good. And again, because it's that kind of division rivalry game, you never really know what's going to happen. You get some just crazy things. It's like college football. Yeah, Broncos, Cowboys, usual kind of stuff there. Patriots, Panthers, not particularly interesting. I do find Vikings and Ravens very interesting, though. Ravens coming off of a bye, so it will be. Yeah, and I think Latavius Murray should be back, so they'll at least have their top running back, so to speak. Lamar being fresh, Bateman back. He's got a couple games under his belt. Was able to get a quick week off, kind of help him out with having to jump into 2 NFL games immediately after getting over an injury as a rookie. See where Hollywood is leaving off. The Vikings defense has not been all that impressive lately, and I am actually curious to see how that offense is going to do against the Ravens defense, which has largely been bend don't break in terms of real performance, but I mean, they're giving up points. They faced tough tight ends, but they've been horrific against tight ends. So this could be a big Ty Conklin game if you're a streamer at that position. See if Conklin's available. And well, we know Humphrey can get torched by a good attack. So I would not write off Justin Jefferson by any means in this game. This defense is just not quite the same. This team really isn't quite the same with the way the offense has had to really evolve into the passing game as opposed to run. Yeah, I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, let's see. Brooks asks, are we dropping Ridley or Derrick Henry in redraft? Henry, yes. Ridley, I'm probably going to try to wait it out a couple of weeks just because if he does come back, I mean, that's as valuable of a piece as you're going to be able to get. But if you have an opportunity to make a trade that's going to require you to drop him to make room on your roster, or you're going to have to include him as a throw-in piece, whatever, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily hesitate if it's something else that helps your team. But I'm not convinced this is something where he's stepping away for the year. I imagine it's going to be at minimum a couple of games, but it's not going to be. Well, it might be the whole year, but I don't know. I'm willing to take the chance for now. We don't exactly know what's going on there. Let's see, we've got Browns and Bengals as well. Drama with Odell Beckham, so he won't be there for the Browns. Baker's still sporting the hurt shoulder, but the Bengals just got worked by the Jets. So how will they respond? Bills and Jaguars. Yawn. Bills just going to clap the Jaguars, of course. Texans Dolphins is just cancel the game. Don't even play it. Nobody wants that. Raiders and Giants. Now that was going to be a little more interesting to me, except that Saquon landed on the COVID list today, so he is likely not available. Dang. And we'll see how the Raiders play given the other news that they've been dealing with over the last 24, 48 hours. Chargers, Eagles, Packers, Chiefs, Cardinals, Niners. We don't know if Kyler Murray is going to be playing in this game. They're saying he is probably good to go, but I don't know. The Vegas line changed last night to a pick'em. I haven't checked during the day today to see if that has changed back, but I'm not entirely convinced Kyler is going to be in this game. And the 49ers, while it was the Bears, they did look good last week. Seemed to get a little bit of their mojo back. So they have the home game here. They played the Cardinals pretty tough. And if Kyler's out in particular, this is the Colt McCoy game. I love the 49ers here. And for Jimmy and Debo and Mitchell all to have excellent games. Kittle is to return, so that should also really brighten the outlook of the 49ers offense, and I really look forward to that one. And then Titans-Rams, this might be the best game of the week. Well, dang, I have to keep taking that back. No Henry, so it probably will not be the best game of the week. This will have a lot of fantasy implication as well. You've got a lot of names on both sides that you're going to have in your lineup, so can't miss it as far as a Sunday night matchup goes, but yeah, without Henry, it's hard to see much of a competitive game here. And then Bears-Steelers on Monday night. Again, peace. Yeah, these matchups are not the best. Not the best at all. Now, I am kind of moving a little quickly because I wanted to leave some time here at the end just for some additional topics. I took a little bit of time in a recent episode to just tell people, leave a little parting words of don't be an asshole. And some of this relates to it, but I'm going to go over some quick news updates and then talk about a couple of these subjects before we get out of here and wrap up the boardroom. So, again, Derrick Henry, broken foot, likely done for the year, at least the regular season. So, yes, you can drop him, Brooks, and redraft, and it's just a damn shame. I truly thought the guy wasn't human, and unfortunately, I am wrong. Saquon, COVID list. It was odd because it was reported that he was COVID positive in the morning, and then midday, Adam Schefter, I believe, tweeted out that he actually tested negative on his next COVID test, and then a little while later, he still ended up on the COVID list. So not really, I don't know, it's a curious situation there, but it makes you think that he is probably not going to play Sunday, which is a bummer because it looked like he was very possibly going to return beforehand. Aaron Rodgers, also on the COVID list. This with a little more drama because it wasn't really known that he was unvaccinated. He had previously said that he was immunized when asked if he was vaccinated, and apparently, whatever his method of immunization was, the NFL rejected. So he is in protocol under the rules of an unvaccinated player. And with that, he will be subject to a minimum of a 10-day quarantine. So that really puts his availability for next week in serious doubt as well. Disappointing there for fantasy managers. Definitely a bummer to learn that today. Michael Thomas announced today that he will not be coming back this season in his recovery from ankle surgery. This one really burns because I took a chance on him and a lot of, this was a hot debate in the offseason, and I have ended up on the wrong side of it. But yeah, I took the chance, drafted him, 10th round-ish or later, on a lot of fantasy teams just counting on getting at least a high-end wide receiver 2 upon his return, and now that return will not be coming, and that just stinks for so many of us, but especially me because, well, I did that on a lot of teams, so lost an IR spot for no reason really all year long as well. Bummer. But there were many out there who did say, yeah, don't expect MT to play this season. And, well, props to you guys. You win. You got that one. Yeah, wasted pick on those teams for me. And now there are a couple of pieces of more serious news that, and these are where I really want to leave these final thoughts because these are things that extend well beyond football and are important to discuss. One is, again, unless you're living under a rock and you're, as an NFL fan living under a rock anyways, Henry Ruggs was involved in a car accident on Tuesday morning that unfortunately left a woman dead, killed her dog as well. Henry Ruggs, it is said by the prosecutors that he had a .161 blood alcohol level and was driving 156 miles in his Corvette when he crashed into the woman's RAV4 from behind. It's so senseless and upsetting for so many reasons. I mean, all Henry had to do was make a phone call. All of this could have been avoided. I mean, the NFL quite literally has a program set up or a deal with Uber for these players to be able to get rides in an anonymous fashion. It is so upsetting to see this foolishness lead to the loss of a woman's life. Should not be the case. It just simply shouldn't. There is no reason or justification ever for driving drunk, and especially, and I hate using the word especially because it's not more or less serious than any other drunken driving situation, but especially when somebody has all the resources possible available to them so that they can make the right decision. While it doesn't justify, say, somebody who may not have another way to get home short of walking or whatever, uh, you might be able to somewhat understand where the logic came from, sort of, in terms of you could see why they may have thought that when they were drunk. It's really hard to do that in this situation with Henry. There's just so much to it, but in the end, you can't help but have your heart ache for that woman's family. Just so do not drink and drive. Do not drive impaired. Period. Please. All you're doing is endangering yourselves, endangering others. You can end a life and then ruin your own. Could be the other way around. There's no good that's going to ever come of it. So just be smart. If you're gonna get messed up, just get a ride. Make sure you have a ride. That's part of it. If you can't get a ride back to wherever you need to be, then you're not in a situation where you should be engaging in those activities. It's really simple. Don't be selfish. Don't be dumb. Just bummer, man. Bummer. And of course, the oldest news here, because this actually was something we learned on Sunday morning, and that is that Calvin Ridley is stepping away from football for the time being to focus on his mental health and well-being. And I would really like to take a second to applaud Mr. Ridley for making this decision. If this is what's right for you, Calvin, I'm glad that you have the courage to make this decision and not allow societal pressure and what's expected of you, so to speak, from media, from fans, from anybody else, and understanding and recognizing what you need to do to make sure that you are in the right place mentally, because mental health is health. You got to take care of it. You absolutely have to, no matter how much money you have, no matter what fame you have. You have a duty to yourself to tend to yourself and make sure that you're staying aware of your mental state, how you're acting, how outside forces, internal forces, your actions are affecting these things. And Calvin realized that at this particular time, being out there on the football field was detrimental to his mental health, detrimental to his football team, because he was not mentally all the way there. And he made the right call. And not only am I proud of Calvin for doing this for himself, but I'm proud because this hopefully will be a continuation of the changing tone and discussion on mental health in our society, because so many elements of it are viewed as weakness or just not taken seriously enough in our culture. There has been a shift over the last few years, but I still feel like we have a long way to go in terms of really making this something that's regularly discussed and not really taboo. If you do have an issue, if you have anxiety, if you have depression, if you have bipolar disorder, if whatever it may be, whatever you may be struggling with, ADD, whatever, learning disabilities, there are a variety of things. But there are certain things with certain help that you're able to at least manage a little bit better. And if that's what Calvin is doing, I hope that sets an example for all of us to go do the exact same thing. Heck, maybe it's even just living with certain weights that you have. Maybe you need to, speak with a therapist. Maybe you need an outlet for things like that. It's possible. And you know what? It's okay if you do. There's nothing wrong with that. That is what I hope a lot of people take from Calvin taking this step. First and foremost, we hope the best for Calvin himself, obviously, and hope he does whatever he needs to do to get himself back right and hope that he gets there, whether or not he even returns to the football. I think he will, but that's really not the point of bringing up this topic. So I really hope, again, that we can all not only take that lesson for ourselves, but also hope it, with the NFL being the predominant sports league here in the United States, that can really ring a bell on further mental health, understanding, well-being, and just general societal daily discussion and universal understanding of needing to maintain your mental health. There we go. That's the way I think I was trying to phrase it. I wanted to make sure I chose my words carefully. But I hope that, mental health maintenance is something that becomes mainstream, I guess would be the best way to say it. It's very important, and you can see how it can affect even rich and famous professional athletes here when they're needing to be called on a given time on a Sunday. So I get choked up a little bit. These things are very serious. I take them very seriously. I know many of you that are watching and listening do as well. And I hope any of you that come across this episode do the same. If you know anybody that is struggling with their mental health, please help them in any way you can. Encourage them to get whatever help they need independently. Not necessarily independently, but don't necessarily wait for others. I'm not saying ever push anybody strongly in a particular direction. That's sometimes counterproductive. But make sure that you're there for them and that they know you have their best interests in mind at all times. I don't want to leave on quite such a heavy note, so I'm going to jump back into the plugs as well. We didn't really get into these plugs last week. And I'm going to plug Prize Picks one more time because this is extremely important. I'm having some success this year. I hope you're following along with my picks, and I hope you are playing yourself. So go to prizepicks.com, sign up using code collective, KOLLECTIV. They will give you a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's $100 free deposit. $100. They will give you $100. It's tremendous. You'll have $200 in your account, and that is plenty to play with. And just begin growing your money at a nice little rate if you know how to pick player props. All entries are player prop parlays, ranging from passing yards, receiving yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, completions, receptions. It's there. So you just need to pick from 2 to 5 players, go over under their given stat or fantasy score, and you can make anywhere from double to 10 times your money on a given entry. And every Sunday at the Fantasy Collective's Twitter account, FF_collective, we do have our Collective Core 4 with our Collective Cash betting crew. That is myself, that is Dynasty Bill, Billy Mustafa, that is Bugsy at Real Bugsy, and Papa at Brown Stauskas, all on Twitter. I have been pretty hot lately. I believe I've hit 4 in a row on my Prize Picks Core 4 picks and 5 of my last 6. Bill has had quite a bit of a hot streak. We're at about 500 with Papa and Bugsy, so we're well over 500 as a whole. We are looking good. And if you're tailing and comboing the picks right or doing flex plays, you are making money. So continue to follow us at the Core 4 or at Fantasy Collective for the Core 4 every Sunday morning for our 4 best bets for Prize Picks. And let's make some money. And lastly, make sure you're also checking ffcollective.com. Fantasy Collective has all of your fantasy needs. Primarily in season, we are focused on writing. So be there for our series. We have starts and sits. We have Nate Polvo's Dynasty Sweet Spot start sits done by yours truly and Shane Barrett every week. We have Newbie to Cash from Wardy. We have Nobody of the Week from Carbon Fox. And we also have other entertainment media, such as the Fantasy Collective's flagship podcast, the Fantasy Nightcap, hosted by Shane Barrett as well. And of course, everything is accompanied by the most elite of graphics done by Nick Sarnelli and Carbon Fox. So make sure you're checking all that out over at ffcollective.com and following all of us on Twitter. And with that, week 9 is here. George Kittle is back. And the fantasy boardroom is